Today, we're talking with Satwick Saxena, co founder and head of sales at Revenoid, about enterprise revenue acceleration. Welcome to Beyond SaaS. I am Jason Niedle, founder of Tethos, and we solve growth problems for tech companies. And if you are curious about hypergrowth and some of these topics that we touch on here, we do have a playbook at tethos.com/podcast where I've compiled the things that we've learned from all these interviews. And today I'm really excited to explore tech company growth with Satwick. He is the co-founder and head of sales of Revenoid. Revenoid surfaces strategic pains and maps them to value propositions and executes really complex human-sounding sales playbooks across every channel. And customers have reported more than a 50% increase in outbound volume and 20% better conversion rates and over a 3x pipeline generation within weeks of implementing this. So I'm really curious to hear how this specifically works because I wanted to know the details of what's happening. And I think it's really interesting, Satwick, that you're also a fellow at RSA, the Royal Society for the Encouragement of Arts. That society's been around since 1754, and I think your fellowship demonstrates you're committed to creating a better future. And so that's really fascinating to me. I'd love to hear more about that. So welcome.
Great. Thanks for having me, Jason. I've been listening to the podcast recently and, loved the episodes and looking forward to the conversation today.
Thank you so much. Hey, before we jump in, do you have a quick golden nugget, a tip for our readers?
Yeah, I would love to recommend two books. One of them is something that I keep going back to again and again. I must have read it about 10 times by now. It's called Thinking Fast and Slow by Daniel Kahneman. It's a book about how our brains operate, and there are two systems of the brain. We call it system one, system two, one which reacts instinctively and one which is more deeper rational thought. Think of it almost like two different versions of AI, the one model, the regular model, and the reasoning model. So it's fascinating to me, like, how you can consciously think about that and leverage it in every facet of your life. So I love that. And more recently, more in our area of work, especially driving sales, I came across a book called Cold Calling Sucks by Nick Kegelski. He runs the 30 MPC podcast, really cool guy. And he worked with like a huge amount of data set from Gong, like I think 300 million plus cold calls to do this analysis and like recommend how should you be approaching, cold calling in this day and age. We've used it in our teams. We've, recommended and used it for a whole bunch of customers and seeing great results. So if you're a founder or an exec looking to, supercharge your growth, especially with cold calls, that's a great book to have.
And what a great title. Cold Calling Sucks. You can't forget that.
True.
So tell me a little bit more about Revenoid.
So before giving you like the overview, the challenge we saw right now that spurred us to, start working on this was I don't have to tell you, with all the automation and the new AI, the signal to noise ratio has just completely gone to hell on every single channel. Things that worked even a year back are no longer that effective. The one thing though we've seen, it's almost like going back to fundamentals of sales. So one thing that still works is if you can actually understand what is the actual business problem, the real underlying fundamental pain that is relevant to what you can solve. If you can understand that deeply, then whether you're trying to have a conversation on email or you're trying to have a conversation in person or on LinkedIn or a call, you can make it work because you genuinely understand and you can help the other person. But doing this is getting actually harder and harder versus easier, especially given all the tools that most teams have today. Reps end up actually jumping from tool to tool to piece together different facets to bring this whole thing together, because each tool is focused on its own data, doesn't really talk to other data sets inside the company or outside the company. And like the analogy I use is, this is like different blind men touching the elephant and now trying to piece together what this is. It's always going to be so much more harder.
Yeah, exactly.
That's the gap we saw. And what Revenoid is doing is becoming a single layer of intelligence, a system of intelligence that can unite all the external data on all these target accounts. So we have a whole set of AI agents and agentic workflows to go look at every piece of information from outside, everything on the public internet. And then we also connect to all your data sets inside the company, whether it is your call recordings, whether it's your CRM, whether it's your sales enablement content or case studies and stuff. And using this, we are able to bring a 360-degree view to every customer, every prospect you're working with in one place. and then use this view to do deep analysis on every account. So there
Mm.
are like three main prospect agents we have. So we have your value messaging agent, which can understand all the current messaging frameworks, understand the calls, look at what's working. We have the research agents, which can go out and whether it is looking through insights in conversations from call recordings to looking at stuff outside from earnings calls and other places. And then we have the messaging agents who can make sense of it, understand what's working, learn on the loop, and then deliver multi-channel messaging across the revenue lifecycle. The biggest advantage that we bring to the table is that by connecting all of this can give intelligence throughout the revenue lifecycle. So
Mm.
it starts with the SDRs where they can start using it for demand gen. They can very quickly, at a couple of clicks, understand, hey, of all the accounts I'm chasing, which ones make sense right now based on what's happening there. And they can convert that understanding into multi-channel messaging sequences very quickly. As this handover happens from that initial meeting to say a opportunity to a AE, there's no loss of information. There's one seamless system, so nothing lost in handover. The AEs can start using it not just for their outreach, but all like say for meeting prep, for deal execution, account strategy, and eventually over to the AMs or CS for their upsells, cross sell, renewals, where it can prep them for QBRs or for when should they go for a renewal or when an account is at risk. So becomes available across the revenue lifecycle.
And as the marketer, I like to think maybe I could look in there and find out who my ICPs are more clearly and understand them better, and then understand their needs a little bit better, and then also focus my marketing with your data, I imagine.
Absolutely, absolutely. That's the biggest differentiator that we are able to bring to the market. Where even right now, if you see, most AI tools are still more point solutions than system wide solutions. And I think now that we've been spoiled with interaction with OpenAI and all the new generation of AI chatbots, I think the expectation increasingly from end users is don't ask me to do 8 different tasks, right? Just here's what I want to do. Don't make me figure out how to do it. Just do it for me.
And in most cases, at least I'm used to dealing with individual, even AI tools, and they don't communicate well with each other. They don't stack very well. I think the first place where I saw kind of what I would call a good stack is ChatGPT Deep Research, where I
Yep.
could sit there and ask it 50 questions and get to the ultimate thing that it got to, maybe, right? But then when you hit the deep research button and you watch it think, oh, well, I didn't find this data here. Maybe I should look here and try this. Oh, maybe I should ask this question, right? And so it's really revealing to me to go from that step of, okay, a single tool to like the complexity of how these tools can work together to make something much greater.
Absolutely. I think that's where the opportunity is. I think every single facet of work will be reimagined fundamentally with both agentic workflows and just reimagining it like what you can do with AI. Something which is not possible even, I mean, I would say a year back. Things are
Not
moving
even.
so
Yeah.
so fast.
And it's something that I look forward to, but it's also something I'm a bit terrified. Like I was talking with a guest the other day about a single tool, and I was thinking, when does someone come together and put together the marketing version of all this? You have what I would call the sales version of putting it all in one bucket. Where they can look at my email channels and compare that with the messaging and compare that with the AdWords and the Facebook ads and et cetera, et cetera. Like that will all get put together. And then what happens to my job and my career and what I've done for 20 something years. But at the same time, like that's magical and that's amazing. But then what happens to us as consumers when we're so well hyper targeted that how do you escape anything?
I think we'll have bots for that too. We have AI for that too. But I mean, I think that the advantage is, as you said, I mean, I'm sure the marketing equivalent is either out there or being built as we speak. The opportunity is like it removes all the grunt work, right? Like when we work with customers, the thing which I always get very surprised by, even for very large companies who have very sophisticated sales motions, they've been around for quite some time, they know what works. But half the time, if not all the time, their teams, they know what to do. They know what they want to do. They're just finding ways of doing that despite the tools they have. Or
Mhm.
how do I, like, I know I want to do this, but this system will not talk to that system in this way. Okay, so I have to find a workaround.
Mhm.
These two systems are not even connected. How do I even associate and do analysis here? I can't. So I need to first manually pull, something from one system into an Excel sheet and then run some analysis manually, then come back to the other stuff. Recently, one of the, Fortune 500 companies we were working with, we came across a team, insane execution. They're killing it on output, but it's powered by like one really, really awesome person inside who knows what they want to do, and he's spending like 18 hours, 20 hours per week actually doing all the analysis, uniting all the data, then putting it into a CSV file, which is being uploaded to their sales execution platform.
Right.
Right. So
Ridiculous,
I
yeah.
think imagine once all this grunt work goes away and you can focus on like the high quality stuff. I think that is the future that excites me.
And over, this question keeps coming up in practically every podcast. Like, what makes us human? What makes us better than the machine as the machines get really good at certain things? And I think we all have to figure that out about ourselves. What makes me special? It's going to be relationships. It's going to be emotion. It's going to be this ability to ascertain what's right and what's wrong in a different way. The ability to see certain things intuitively, which we should probably define better, but intuitively that a machine is never going to actually capture. But it's a really interesting journey that we're all smack in the middle of right now.
Absolutely. I think it's a fascinating time for human race. But
So
yeah,
if I ask you the hard question, if I turn this around and say, okay, well, you should have some of the best sales in the world right now using your tools for your own company. Tell me about that. Like, how are you using your own system to grow? What are you learning from that? How is it supercharging your growth?
absolutely. Yeah. That's you gotta dog food. If you can't dog food, then you can't sell. So for us, this product direction was a pivot for us from where we were like about 18 months back. And my history, I've not been a enterprise salesperson necessarily, marketer at heart, worked in marketing before. When I transitioned to, starting the company, even initially my role was more marketing focused, eventually transitioned to sales and then leading the sales team. Using this tool, we were actually able to reduce our headcount over the last 6 months by almost one third. And we're a small team to begin with. And yet, our output in terms of our opportunities, our meetings is right now at like 50% higher than it was with three times larger a team. You're literally down to a single SDR, a single AE. And because now we can go after accounts which are prime, accounts which are absolutely, we understand why they need us right now. What is the precise reason to talk? It's made a huge difference. And one of my favorite examples is just in cold calling. Cold calling is getting harder. It was never easy to begin with, but with all the power dialing and everything else, it's becoming even more hard. What we've done is we actually generate a specific call script, like talking points for every single prospect.
Mhm.
So, and we pipe this down to whatever tool we are using to dial. Right now, we are using Orem. Now, what this has allowed our team to do is actually we've been reducing the number of dials we are making instead of increasing them, because each conversation that we can get, our connection to conversation rate has been moving up to now it's almost at 50%. Like,
50?
yeah, like just in terms of what it means, when we call, imagine like for a cold call where you were not expecting my call, one in two people are talking to our team for more than 60 seconds on a random cold call, because we are no longer dialing them and just saying a standard opener and a standard script. We are actually talking about noticed this that's relevant to them, super relevant to them, and then saying, hey, can I tell you why this made me call you, and can I talk to you for 60 seconds? And the fact that it's something which is top of mind for them, combined with the honesty of I'm not trying to hustle you here, is giving us these insane results.
So what's your growth goal for this year?
Our goal for this year is to, get to at least 2xing our revenue. We just made a start last year, so aim is at least to 2x, but we are pushing for 3xing of revenue without really adding headcount, like keeping headcount, maybe adding it, maybe one more person to the sales team, and being able to demonstrate that we can use our own tool to like supercharge our growth, hit our growth metrics without resorting to like scaling teams the way it's been done in the past.
And what are you doing to get that besides cold calling, or is cold calling enough?
No, it's a combination. So with Revenoid, we are able to apply it across the sales cycle for us. So this is helping us generate, of course, full sequences, multi-channel sequences from our outreach perspective. So again, being smart with what we're doing with combination of multiple channels. For example, one play that works really well for us is for any of these senior folks that we're targeting, these large, enterprise companies, we never start with, say, a email or a cold call. One simple workflow we're using is we go and consistently engage these leaders with comments on their LinkedIn posts. That gives you great visibility always. That gives you, point of view to engage, and then transition to either a DM or a specific follow-up email, based on a specific engagement or a post that we saw. So it's never generic or a specific thing that the system picked out as a clear pain right now, whether it's a role they're hiring for or something that has come up, say, on a earnings call. Combining that with cold calls at the right time in the process, like this workflow is what has enabled us to, start hitting these goals.
Yeah, interesting. So literally, you'll have a plan. Does your system help you see that plan of how to engage in kind of a stacked structure that you were talking about
Yeah.
there?
So one of the great things the system allows us to do is, like, again, you can take all these different ideas. Like, I want to execute this complex playbook, which needs to have, yeah, if they have done this post, I want to go and engage on a comment. And in the comment, hey, how should I talk about to this kind of a leader based on their persona and industry versus others? I want to pull up the right metrics to give the right example in a single sentence on a cold call to a prospect. So all of this you can, with just a single, few sentences in plain English, you can bring all that together, set the rules, and then in terms of just, create the plan, you can just say, okay, yeah, the first step should be a LinkedIn check, LinkedIn posts, and then a couple of emails if this makes sense. Then if X has happened, do a call and so forth. You can set those rules, map it to your sequences, because execution is still happening through a sales enablement platform. And then you can see the whole plan.
Sounds like agencies might need to white label this. I like it.
Possibly.
Who is your ICP? Who are some of your key ideal clients?
So counterintuitively, what we've seen is the more larger, the more complex the organization, the bigger the need for something like this is. Like our original assumption was that larger companies would have this figured out, long back. They wouldn't need this much, and maybe it's the mid-sized companies who are trying to grow faster who will need this more. So for us, like our ICP right now is larger companies. I would say like more than 1,000, 2,000 employees on the lower end. For now, for us, like 5,000 employees as a size, selling either complex products or, having their own enterprise sales motion, usually either multi-product or multi-geography. That's where we see the best, and they're outbound focused, outbound led.
Yeah, it sounds like there's certain complexities between the number of people and the number of products and maybe the number of their ICPs that an AI solution like yours can really help structure that in a way where they can finally make sense of it and have a straightforward path.
Yep. Because, imagine somebody new coming into that organization. It takes you what, 6, 7 months just to get your head around and like what's where.
What do I
Uh,
sell? Yeah. And to
yeah,
whom?
what do I sell? And there's so much unsaid information always, right? Like, you should check these things here and don't check the case studies there. They're not updated. But that's unsaid information. That's why it takes so much time for people to ramp up, for example. And by removing that requirement, like you can come in on day one, you have all the pieces of information that you would go manually find in one place. You have the analysis in one place. It's already learned from the best results, from the best messaging frameworks out there already. Uh, Allows you to very quickly understand what's happening and go into pure execution mode very, very quickly, whether you're an SDR, whether you're an AE, or whether you are an AM.
Interesting. So if you look at your own company, if we look at your internal constraints, what's holding you back from faster growth? Or not even necessarily holding you back, but what could you change that would help you grow faster?
So one is definitely working more in marketing and building visibility. I think that's one area that we need to work more on. One thing we are doing this year is, and I love the idea on constraints. We actually forced ourselves this year to reimagine every single facet, every single workflow and process we have in the company, and reimagine it with AI and how we would do it, and either reskill or rehire or remove people as needed. So we actually brought down the company. We were pretty lean to begin with, like at 20, 22 people at the beginning of the year. And we are right now already down to 10 without any drop in output, in productivity. In fact, most things are trending north. So marketing is one thing that we have to, like, that's one function still left, which we, I think, need to reimagine fundamentally and figure out, like, in this age, what does that mean? A lot of traditional stuff works, doesn't works necessarily. So for our version, like how do we get brand visibility out there more effectively? How do we get more face time with prospects and customers? And again, while doing it in a lean setup. So I think that's one major constraint for us.
It's interesting because somebody was saying the other day that they think the world's first $1 billion single person company is not too far off in the future, right? And that sounds insane,
I know.
but maybe it's true, right?
I mean, all the metrics of what is good have been smashed over the last year, right? I mean, we've seen companies like 5 people, 10 people companies go to 50 million in revenue, 30 million in revenue in months. I don't know. I think a couple of weeks back I read, I forget the name right now, but of a company that they launched 10 weeks back, 5 people, they're already at 30 million in revenue, in ARR, not revenue necessarily,
And they are
in 9 weeks, 10 weeks.
insane.
That's already happened. So, I mean, yeah, the $1 billion uh, company may not be that far.
Amazing. Yeah, I wonder if we look over time. To me, this is a historical time period, equivalent to the Industrial Revolution, and whether this call this the AI revolution or the information age or whatever they're going to call it in 200 years or something like that. But I wonder if you look back, one of the common measurements is what's your, ARR per employee. What will that look like from 1995 to 2030 or something like that? What will that number do? It's probably goes from 100 grand to a million. I mean, who knows?
More, a lot
More,
more, tens of millions maybe,
tens of millions. Like
right?
that'll be a crazy chart, right? Because it's probably smooth and then it'll just, I mean, and then what does that mean for us as a society, right? When people can produce so much more revenue, then at some point that theoretically lowers the amount of hours we all should work as a society.
I know we are all worried about it. And I mean, there is reason to worry. I'm not saying there isn't. But humans have done this before, right? I mean, 1,000 years back,
Not like
your
this.
entire day would just completely go into like doing the most basic mundane things to sustain life, right? I mean, just grow food somehow or do a few basic things. And from there, like those tasks have completely, become automated or very very technology enabled, and therefore they are like now there's more specialization, and the amount of time we take for those is minuscule compared to now. Even from like 50 years back, all these new tools, whether it's washing machines and all those other things, have like
Hmm.
taken so much time out, but we've always found new things, right? Because I think the thing which in my views, differentiates humans from machines will always do is we like purpose and we like status. Those are two things that we focus on. And humans will always create something new to fulfill that and value that. I think as this all stuff gets, automated and AI takes over, humans will find more unique human things to do, which will have higher purpose and higher status, and that will drive us.
Well, that's a perfect segue into RSA. So, higher purpose and higher status. And tell us about your fellowship at RSA.
Yeah, I got into it. So I've always been a huge history buff. Especially the from India, like the Mughal history time period to the transition to the colonial period in India. So that was always a passion point I had, especially around the city of Delhi. So that's what led me to the RSA. When I came here, I was away from Delhi and away from India as far as where I can get. So that's where got into that, because that's a global community focused on all these whole array of different projects in different chapters in different cities. So that helps you stay connected to those topics you care about. So whether it is some of this restoration of older maps of those periods to restoration of different art projects or literature from those time periods.
Really interesting. I'm going to have to look into that because I was like, oh, that sounds fascinating.
Yeah, that is interesting. I mean, the fact they have different chapters in different cities with different topics becomes like it becomes easier to find a community to like do those things.
I love that. I know you have to go soon. So, two quick questions. What do you wish other leaders knew about how to grow sales at their company?
I would say right now, just unblock your team.
Mm,
They are spending way too much time in the process execution than the actual act of sales. And I think if they can remove that time, just doing that can double the output they have.
I love that. And what do you see as trends ahead? Things feel a little chaotic in the United States right now, perhaps. How do we navigate these changes? How do we keep growing when we don't know what's coming in the future?
I wish I had a perfect answer for that. I mean, I think one of the things that as founders and as business leaders, you kind of have to manage change all the time. And the pace of change is definitely much, much, much more higher.
Mm.
right now. So I think like my instinct always in this moment is to go back to fundamentals. If we are doing the base fundamentals right, that usually helps you navigate this enough, because it's difficult to plan for this given. I mean, it's on both sides, right? The technology is changing massively. The business and political environment, not just here, across the world, is changing constantly, way more rapidly than before. So I think just focusing on the fundamentals today is the easiest thing to do comparatively.
I guess, yeah, and I guess if we merge it with what you're doing, focus on the fundamentals, but embrace technology to help you as your tool, right?
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. It has
Fundamentals
to
and
be
the newest tools.
the newest tools.
Yeah. And I guess if we take it historically back, right, you look back at the Industrial Revolution, farming didn't stop. Farming just started using new tools.
Yep. Right? Absolutely. I mean, and again, things will be repurposed, right? I mean, horse riding went from a essential skill that you need to do to transport anything to a status thing. I mean, it's great to do that, but you don't have to, and it's a passion now. I think that's the same thing we'll see in many, many areas. Some people will still have to sell directly and do those things, and that'll be their passion point.
Yeah, fascinating. This is great. How can our audience find you?
You can check out our website, revenoid.com. That's Revenoid.com. And you can find me on Twitter at SATIWICK numeric 1.
Perfect. Revenoid.com for the listeners out there again. Satwick, thank you so much for being on Beyond SaaS. For leaders out there, we're committed to exploring tech growth. So we drop episodes twice a week on Tuesdays and Thursdays. And you can find me, Jason Niedle, at tethos.com. That's TETHOS.com, where you can also grab a summary of all the cool things that we've talked about here, at least in season 1, at tethos.com/playbook. And if you got some value today, please go ahead and share this episode and hit any of those buttons, like, subscribe, etc. I appreciate that. Until next time, this is Beyond SaaS.